introductions. On my right was Senator Cates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Roger Cates, and I represent Augusta, trying to open the city in Bassboro, including, I believe, a commissioner in the state senate.
Good afternoon, I'm Linda Valentino, and I represent State Senate District 31, which is Saco, Old Orchard Beach, Hollis, Livingston, and part of Buxton.
Good afternoon, I'm Dave Brandt, and I represent Farmingdale and Gardner in the House.
Good afternoon, I'm Representative Bob Nunning. I represent the towns of Oakland and Sydney.
Good afternoon, my name is Aaron Fry, and I represent Farmingdale Board and
Good afternoon, I'm Jeff Timlake. I represent District 75, turnout leads, and about a little more.
Good afternoon, my name is Tom Windsor, and I represent District 71.
And Jim Ampersand, District 19, Senate Chair of Appropriations. I have 13 towns in western Maine, and down the inner horseshoe with Senator Brakey.
I'm Senator Eric Brakey. I am the Senate Chair for the Joint Standing Committee on Health and Human Services. I represent the people of the towns of Auburn, New Gloucester, Poland, Minot, and Mechanic Falls.
Good afternoon. I'm Drew Dean. I'm the House Chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, and I represent part of the city of Westbrook.
Good afternoon, I'm Scott Hammond, I represent portions of South Portland and Keeblesburg.
Hi, I'm Richard Valley. I live in town of Hancock. I represent House District 136, which is a portion of eastern coastal Hancock County and western Washington County.
Good afternoon, I'm Karen Vashon. I represent House District 29, which is coastal Scarborough.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Christine Bursty, and I represent District 96, 7 lovely towns in Waldo County.
I'm Frances Head from Bethel, and I represent District 117, which consists of 20 towns and townships from the Canadian border to Stone, Maine.
Good afternoon, I'm Lisa Rocky, and I'm proud to represent the individuals of House District 28, which is part of Scarborough.
And I'm Mary Jorgensen, representing the city of Portland, District 41 in the House.
Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Peggy Rotundo. I represent House District 59, which is part of Lewiston, and I'm the House Chair of the Appropriations Committee.
The trio over to my right behind the computer monitors are the committee analysts from both committees, and over here to my left are the committee clerks. And as if you have printed testimony, it goes over to the clerks and distributed for you. We are joined today by the Commissioner of Health and Human Services, Commissioner Mayhew. Come on up. Turn on microphone, and we'll get going.
Good afternoon, Senator Hamper, Representative Rotundo, Senator Brakey, Representative Mateen, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Appropriations and Financial Affairs, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Health and Human Services. I am Mary Mayhew, Commissioner for the Department of Health and Human Services. I am here today to speak in support of LR 1852, the Governor's biennial budget proposal for state fiscal years 2016 and 2017. Just to provide some history in terms of the size and scope of the department's budgets, I wanted to provide some historical expenditures. The department's expenditures in state fiscal year 13 were $3.4 billion state and federal. The total DHHS state-funded expenditures were $1.5 billion, with a general fund component of $1.1 billion. In state fiscal year 14, the department's expenditures were $3.9 billion state and federal. The increased cost from 13 to 14 was attributable to the large one-time costs associated with the hospital settlement of $490 million. The total state expenditures in state fiscal year 14 were $1.8 billion, with a state general fund component of $1.1 billion. The anticipated expenditures for state fiscal year 15 are $3.4 billion, with $1.6 billion in total state spending. And the general fund expenditures for state fiscal year 15 are anticipated to be $1.1 billion. For more than a decade, this agency and the Medicaid program have struggled with one financial crisis after another, with spending outpacing the state's ability to appropriately fund the program and meet critical core needs. Over a little more than a decade, the Medicaid program doubled in size and in cost, growing by more than $1 billion. Year after year, Maine addressed that shortfall by cutting funds for other state agencies, reducing funds available in other programs within DHHS, reducing rates of reimbursement in Maine care, and certainly by adding to the state's tax burden. Due to previous reforms and hard work, enrollment and spending in the Medicaid program has moved to a sustainable level. Accordingly, we take great pride in putting the department's finances on a sustainable footing. We note that this success has not occurred through broad cuts, but rather sound, measured financial management. As a result of this effective management, we are finally in a position where we are moving from one fiscal crisis to the next, while we are no longer staring at a sea of red ink. We are also paying our bills on time to both more accurately reflect the true annual costs of Maine care and also to dramatically reduce the accumulation of debt owed to hospitals. With those commitments firmly in place and financial stability established, the department can now chart a course and focus on key priorities, namely the elimination of wait lists for services for the elderly and disabled, continued support for Maine's nursing homes, expanded access to primary care and funding for mental health services as required by law under the consent decree. All combined, those requests represent more than $114 million over the biennium in critical investments in those services. However, the overall budget for DHHS requests net initiatives of just $6.6 million and an increase of 1.8% above the state fiscal year 14-15 biennial budget baseline. We are supporting these initiatives through our ongoing commitment to reform the department's budget focused on alignment with the department's core mission, to set appropriate rates of reimbursement, and to seek improved accountability for the use of our funds. For purposes of today's public hearings, the focus is largely on the Office for Family and Dependents. OFI has 915.5 legislatively authorized positions. OFI had expenditures in state fiscal year 14 of $250.5 million, with $73.7 million of that in general fund expenditures. We are anticipating expenditures of $255.6 million in state fiscal year 15, with $74.1 million of that in general fund expenditures. The baseline general fund budget for OFI in state fiscal year 16 is $73.8 million, and in 17 it is $74.5 million. Inclusive of the department's proposed initiatives, those figures would decline to $68.6 million in state fiscal year 16, or a 7.1% reduction from the legislatively approved baseline, and to $68.7 million in state fiscal year 17, a 7.8% reduction from the baseline. And with that, I will begin to review each of the proposed initiatives. Beginning on page 344. This is an initiative in the Office of Multicultural Affairs. And while I emphasize that the focus is on the Office for Family and Dependents, there are a couple of initiatives pertaining to this much smaller office. This initiative continues a one limited period social services program specialist 1 position through June 30th, 2017 in the Office of Multicultural Affairs to meet requirements specified in the Refugee Cash Assistance Grant Program. And this pertains to the use of federal funds, and you'll note $74,711 in 16 and $78,339 in 17.
Questions? We'll do the same stop start as we did yesterday. Representative Mark?
Thank you, Commissioners. There are no state funds involved in that initiative?
Correct.
Thank you.
On page 344. This is, again, in the Office of Multicultural Affairs. This is seeking general fund appropriation of $10,000 in each year of the biennium. This initiative increases funding in the Office of Multicultural Affairs to improve data collection. These funds will support improved data collection system capabilities and assess population needs via a comprehensive needs assessment. In addition, we plan to pilot a web-based data collection system that will store and report information from multiple systems into one central hub. OMA will continue to provide ongoing technical assistance and supports to cross-institutional partners, and the office will seek to strengthen existing and new partnerships with cross-institutional data appointees to ensure that the data collection happens systematically following standardized common protocols. These monies will also be in concert with federal funds that are used around the data analytics within the Office of Multicultural Affairs.
See no hands pop up.
On page 379. This initiative transfers and reallocates the cost of one research assistant position and associated all other from the Attorney General's Administration Program, General Fund, and the Victims' Compensation Program, other special revenue, to the Department of Health and Human Services, Purchase Social Services funding. And this will be 50% general fund and 50% other special revenue, effective March 29, 2015. The position will be reorganized to a Health Services Consultant 2 position. This pertains to the current enabling statute authorizes the Office of the Attorney General to provide technical assistance and training to sexual assault forensic examiners. The Sexual Assault Forensic Examiner Advisory Board and the Director of SAFE program believe that the training of sexual assault forensic examiners primarily should be viewed as a nursing healthcare specialty. As such, they believe that examiners should be held to establish standards of clinical competency and professionally certified. The Office of the Attorney General lacks the statutory authority to implement and oversee a certification program. Furthermore, a nursing healthcare certification program, even if authorized, would conflict with the mission of the Office of the Attorney General. For these reasons, the advisory board and director believe that the SAFE training program should be moved to an entity which can regulate the training and professional certification of sexual assault forensic examiners. We have met with the staff in the Attorney General's office, and they and the Attorney General are supportive of this proposal.
Questions?
On page 296, now moving into the Office of Family Independence. This initiative continues two limited period eligibility specialist positions created by financial order. These positions were originally established through recent legislation to assist individuals applying for disability. These positions also ensure that the TANF temporary hardship decisions are implemented in the eligibility system and track all denials and granted extensions for data purposes, and also to ensure the proper administration of ASPIRE and TANF temporary hardship extension decisions. The primary workload of these positions is to assess and assist when appropriate ASPIRE participants applying for SSDI. Since this work began in June of 2014, they have received on average 80 referrals per month from regional ASPIRE staff. They average 203 contacts with participants, medical providers, other connected resources per month on behalf of participants. These contacts include phone, mail, email, and face-to-face.
Not seeing any questions.
On page 296, this is a position transfer within the Office for Family Independence. This initiative transfers all positions and associated all other in the additional support for persons in retraining and employment, the ASPIRE program, from 100% general fund to 100% federal block grant fund. The transfer will allow for the full utilization of available general fund budget resources to support other program costs and are also eligible toward the state's maintenance of effort requirement for the TANF block grant program.
Pretty quiet today, Commissioner.
Well, let's keep it going.
Okay.
On page 296 and 374. This initiative transfers and reallocates two office assistant positions from 64% general fund and 36% other special revenue funds in the Office of the Commissioner District Operations Program to 100% federal block grant funds in the Aspire program. The department will move these positions to the appropriate funding source to align with the assigned duties. Page 297. This initiative continues 1 limited period public service coordinator 2 position and 3 limited period senior planner positions in the Office for Family Independence program, originally established by financial order through June 10, 2017. Senior management positions are necessary to manage and coordinate with multiple state departments and stakeholders related to improving employment outcomes for our Aspire participants.
Representative Martin.
Thank you very much. Mind filling me in? I see titles, but tell me what these positions are and what will they be doing?
So this relates to work that we have undertaken in our tri-agency effort with the work with the Department of Labor, Career Centers, with the Department of Education, Adult Education, helping to ensure that the comprehensive vocational assessments that are conducted, that there is management across these 3 agencies in support of the individualized case management. So as individuals who come into TANF and into the Aspire program have a vocational assessment and an individualized plan is established, that there is a warm handoff representative to, if they need adult education, that we are helping to support that pathway, and it's not just a, you need to go over to adult ed, but keeping important lines of communication and data sharing. Similarly, if individuals are identified as work ready, that the right supports are established between our office and the career centers to be monitoring progress, and specifically as we work to develop very clear measures of success and targets for our outcomes, that they're helping to support the data-informed decision-making around our work.
So when I see public service coordinator, what is this a PR position?
No, just, we can get you the position job descriptions, but what I have described is the work that they're supporting broadly in our efforts to improve our employment outcomes within this program.
And these were established by financial order
Yes.
last year?
I'd have to get back to you on the exact date that those were established.
Yeah, I'd be curious. It seems, so these are, how many? There are 3 positions here we're talking about?
4, and again, we are continuing to propose that they remain limited period as we evaluate the success of this model.
And you have a model that you have laid out for us?
We have, and I thought it may have been included in one of our recent orientations to this
I
committee.
didn't see it, so maybe you could.
I would be happy to provide
Thank you.
another copy of that information. On page 317, similarly, this initiative is continuing 1 limited period social services program specialist 1 position in the food supplement administration program through June 10th, 2017. This position is assigned to the operation of the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Education Program to help oversee agreements with contracted providers, make site visits, and ensure proper use of these specific funds associated with the food stamp program. On page 317. Again, these are the use of federal block grant funds within the Office for Family Independence. This initiative continues 2 limited period customer representative associate 2 positions extended by Public Law 2013 to be funded 100% federal expenditures fund in the Food Supplement Administration Program through June 10th, 2017. These positions implement mandated services to food supplement recipients, including identifying and removing barriers to employment on a statewide basis, and will allow Maine to meet its approved USDA employment and training program. And again, this is in conjunction with the Department of Labor and the Career Centers. On page 387, $1,317,317. This is seeking to reduce general fund expenditures in state fiscal year 16 of $1,046,670, and in 17, $1,395,560. This initiative reduces funding in the general fund food supplement administration account and the temporary assistance for needy families account by eliminating state-funded TANF benefits and food supplement benefits for non-citizens. Maine is one of only 5 states that provides a state-funded SNAP benefit and one of only 19 states that provides a state-funded TANF benefit. This action will put Maine on par with federal policy and allow the department to redirect valuable resources to Maine's most vulnerable citizens.
Representative Martin?
Thank you very much. If the mother happens, and I'll use my area rather than any other part of the state, happens to be from Canada, those children born in the United States, is that saying that she and the family would not get TANF?
I will get back to you. This is related to compliance with the federal reforms that were adopted in 1996. Rather than answering here, I'd like to just go back and confirm what the application would be in that particular case.
Because at the present time, they are receiving.
Are they, but the question is, are they receiving those through the federally funded TANF and food stamp as opposed to the state funded? And the state funded was in contrast to when the reforms occurred in 1996 that limited the use of federal funds for certain non-citizens, and this proposal is seeking to align with those federal requirements. So let us double check, Representative, and get back to you.
Thank you.
Representative Kern?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, Commissioner, I'm looking on A317 and on A387, and I cannot find the figures that you're referring to. Can you help me with that?
Well, I'm not sure if these are combined. It's Initiative 1053. And I don't know that I have the second initiative number.
See the initiative.
Commissioner, I can step in if you'd like.
Sure.
Hey,
Commissioner, I don't know.
Good.
No, it's a combination of the two on those 2 pages. So
Okay.
both
So can you
387
point
and
to the
317 are just
numbers?
added together to get the number you're seeing on the Commissioner's testimony.
So can I just ask for clarification, is that the 906,684 and the 1,208,912? Or,
It's
yes?
the 906,000, that's for 15-16,
Yep.
and the 139,986,000 for 15-16 that add up to the 1,046,000 for fiscal year 16. And the same for fiscal year 17.
Does everybody else get that? Sorry, just needed to double check because it didn't look quite the same. Thank you.
Not seeing any. Representative Stuckey?
Thank you, Commissioner. So if this were to go through, what would be the plan for the legal non-citizens who lose their food supplement?
Well, certainly, Representative Stuckey, this is in compliance with the federal government and their reforms that occurred in 1996. We're making a prioritization here of where we believe there are additional investments that need to be made to other groups and individuals in the state.
So that part I understand. What I don't understand is what happens to the people who are denied the benefit. That's the question. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, but as we...
I mean, it's not an answer that it complies with federal regulations. That's about some regulations. I'm talking about the people on the ground. What happens when their benefit goes away?
But that wasn't my only answer. My answer was we have 2 federal programs, TANF and food stamps, for which we are aligning with the federal requirements. The second part of my answer is that the state funds that have been used to support that non-compliance are being redirected to other priorities that we believe are critically important for the state.
I'm still left scratching my head about the kids who aren't going to get food there. What are they going to eat?
I understand, but there are other resources, certainly through other organizations, for how these individuals have arrived in this country, and we can certainly provide some additional information, but this is coming down to our ability to prioritize limited resources. The challenge of trying to be all things to all people we know certainly is not, we're not able to do that, and other critical priorities and resources have not been devoted to the elderly, to the disabled, that we are promoting in this budget.
I'm very thankful for that. I don't get the answer to my question yet.
Representative Jorgens.
Thank you. I'm with Mr. Stuckey. I haven't heard an answer either. I mean, we have people in the state who are here absolutely legally. They are unable to work. They are on these programs because there aren't other alternatives for them. So I guess the question is, what's going to happen to this population?
Well, I guess I might turn it back and ask, where is the directive to the congressional delegation and to the federal government as to why these federal programs chose not to cover the costs associated with these individuals through these federal programs?
I think that's a great question. I would actually work on that anytime, any day with anybody. I think that's a huge problem, but I think in the meantime, it's really still a problem involving thousands of people in this state who are, for various reasons, unable to work. They cannot work. They're not legally able to work. They're not able to get a job. They don't have other options.
Well, I'm happy we can get into a lot of the details about what is a far more complicated subject matter related to the federal reforms, immigration law that we don't oversee. Happy to provide some additional information, but there are thousands of individuals, intellectually and developmentally disabled, that also have not received services and supports that we believe this state is obligated to budget for and prioritize in this program.
We can pick this up later, I guess. Thank you.
Well, that's right, it will be taken up later. Representative Klein.
Thank you very much. I need to follow through. I think it's a great line to say blame someone else, but in the meantime, those people are here. And in the short run, we have to figure out a way of how you're going to move them from one program to no program. And I think that, as Commissioner, you have that responsibility to help us move in that direction. We are not in a position where we can't serve people who cannot help themselves. That should not be our society and a method of how we're going to lead people in this day and age and in this state.
And we may fundamentally disagree as to whether or not all of this falls on the doorstep of the Department of Health and Human Services and state government, and to what degree there are other resources that are available through other organizations and nonprofit agencies. I would love to provide additional information on that front, but I am here to prioritize what we believe the use for state dollars should be in support of other critically important services within the department. And I don't believe I was laying blame. I was identifying other decisions that have been made by the federal government related to these federal programs.
Maybe you should consider taking them to the nonprofits that you want to tax property tax to.
If we could...
I thought this was about questioning the budget proposal in front of us.
Committee members, if we could contain the debate at this time, please. We are going to have plenty of time for debate on this particular portion of the bill. I'd like to be able to have the department present it, question, debate, because we're getting into philosophy, we're getting into our political standpoints here. Let's not do that at this time. There's going to be plenty of time for that, please. Okay? I've got also, information-wise, I got 60 people on the list that are sitting here waiting to speak to us also.
I'll be very brief. Mr. Chairman.
I have Senator Cates up next. I know he's there, and I know he wants to speak. If Senator Cates, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, for the work session or before, could you tell us how many people fall into this category? And also, I understand that at least with respect to some of them, and I think asylum seekers are among them, there are rules, either federal or state, that prohibit them from looking for work. And so of that total number, how many of those people do we prohibit from seeking work by other rules? If you don't need to know
So-
today, if you don't know that.
Well, but just to point out, in the documents that we provided to you in advance, you have a detailed fact sheet on these two programs and the number of individuals that are currently receiving these benefits. And again, I just want to remind everyone, in the biennial budget for 12 and 13, the legislature passed the elimination of these funds for these two programs. It grandfathered those currently in the programs and granted a handful of exceptions. This proposal would be to further eliminate the exceptions and those that have been grandfathered. But you have that data. If you are unable to find it, we will get you another packet with those fact sheets. But you have some detailed data included in those fact sheets.
Thank you.
Representative Martin?
Thank you. The question I was trying to get to is, when we phased out a number of years ago, I want to know how many people are left there, and what happens when you don't phase out the remainder.
Can you, Representative Martin, can you just repeat that? When we phased out for these two
Some
programs,
were phased out.
under those previous reforms that were
Right.
adopted in the 12 and 13.
Right, and they were given time to phase out of the program.
We will take a look at whatever the transitional structure was.
Right, and right now, what you're suggesting is not a phase out, but a termination period. That's the issue.
Absolutely. What was done was the compromise that I just identified, which was grandfathering individuals and not allowing any new other than those exceptions.
That's correct.
And we are proposing a different approach here.
Senator Haskell.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I just wanted to respond to Senator Cates had a very specific question, which I will answer to for the city of Portland. Number of asylum seekers in 2011 was 296. It's currently 970 who are receiving general assistance. Visa holders were 188 in 11, are 746 in 14. Our caseload of all other clients has dropped by about 1,000. But that will give you a sense for the city of Portland, what those numbers are and what that growth has been over that 3-year period. Thank you.
So perhaps, let me just, I'll flip to, for the programs that we're talking about, the state-funded SNAP and for state-funded TANF, let me just, the number of current cases in 14 is 420. That is for SNAP. And for TANF, I need to get an update on the, I need to update the numbers here. There are 35 households currently receiving this benefit. But if you flip to your fact sheet, you're going to notice that there's a missing column on it, but there are, in the narrative, there are 35 households receiving the TANF benefit.
Representative Timberlake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here. But did I understand in your testimony that we're one of 5 states that continue with this program the way it is before we propose this?
For state-funded food stamps, for the SNAP program, we are one of 5 that do 100% state-funded, and one of 19 for TANF. So where it is not eligible for federal funds, where these individuals are not eligible for federal funds under those programs, we have a state-funded component. There are only one of 5 states that do that for food stamps and one of 19. And I would just caution on the one of 19, there are a variety of state-funded TANF programs. They may not all necessarily be solely targeted for this population.
Just a quick thought. Do you know, or can you get us information on what the other states are doing who are going to what we're proposing in this budget? What they're doing?
I don't know that they that any of those states currently are, we can certainly evaluate whether other states similarly have gone down this path.
We have that, thank you.
Moving on.
All right.
Sorry, Senator Brady.
Just a quick question, and if you don't have this information available right now, I understand you would request it for the work session. Among the populations we're talking about, non-citizens, have we seen that the state of Maine and similar states that offer these benefits have we seen population growth in these populations at a faster rate than other states that don't have these benefits?
We can take a look at what data we're able to access that would be an apples-to-apples comparison. Certainly, we can take a look, hopefully, with some of the New England states.
All right, thank you.
On page 317, this initiative provides funding for the temporary assistance to needy families of $598,000 general fund in 16 and a similar amount in state fiscal year 17. This is for the offset for common costs as determined by the Department of Health and Human Services in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Administration as required by the Federal Food Stamp Act of 1977. Due to obligations made to the reinvestment plan and the Farm Bill of 2014, restricting the use of SNAP bonus funds, this expenditure will need to be charged to the general fund SNAP administration account beginning in state fiscal year 16. Page 318. This is a proposal to reform and restructure the general assistance program. This initiative adjusts funding by restructuring the general assistance program to reflect a change in the reimbursements made to municipalities. The GA program, funded by a combination of state and local funds, has grown from $7.7 million in 2003 to $18.1 million today. The budgeted state general fund amount has increased dramatically in recent budgets, yet the GA program still regularly ends the year with a shortfall.